the lane. 15-10. Touchdown, Chargers.
What's up, guys? Welcome into a Week 11 edition of Chargers Weekly. Back-to-back Sunday Night Football games. As always, joined by Matt Money Smith. Money, probably the biggest one so far to date. Chargers are 5-4, an opportunity to get to 6-4, 3-1 in the division, but it won't be easy against the Chiefs. Let's rewind just for a few minutes back in Santa Clara. They played really good football for 3.5 quarters in terms of just holding on to the lead, playing with the guys they had. I think in the end, just you ran out of bodies. You ran out of guys.
Yeah, I think you ran out of guys, and ultimately the talent of the 49ers defense overcame, just the struggles of the players that the Chargers had out there on the field that day. I think, again, huge tip of the cap. There's no moral victories in a 17-game season because each win is so important to get into the tournament. But I thought it was one of the best games, if not the best game, that the defense had played, considering the circumstances. To have Sebastian Joseph Day play his career-high snap count, to have Braden Fajoko come straight from the practice squad and play in every snap in the fourth quarter against that physical front. To have, Khalil or Van Noy or Morgan Fox or whomever it was that was on the end have to deal with Trent Williams for all those snaps, when you're down and you can't rotate guys, because Joey and Rumph are out. I thought they played really, really well. And I thought it was going to be an ugly night, I'll be honest with you, Chris. I just said, man, the 49ers are getting healthy at the worst time for the Chargers, as they are the least healthy that they've been, and it got worse during the game. And, man, you just feel terrible for someone like Tito, who really, as a fifth-round pick, started coming on. I mean, he really started playing good football. And there was a reason why you were starting to see his snap counts, creep from 10 or 12 to 20 to in the 30s, and he's playing half the snaps on defense because of how fast and how quickly he progressed and became an important part, an integral part of this defense and that rotation on the interior. And I think when Austin Johnson went down, who had been their best run defender, the coaches, look, we were all like, man, what's this team going to do? And I think the coaches were excited about the opportunity that presented Tito. And, man, it's such a bummer for that young man to not be able to get the rest of the reps this year that he had earned. So I think all things considered, defensively, incredible. Derwin had an incredible game. I think the linebackers played really well. And again, there were just a couple missed assignments, crashing instead of setting the edge that allowed a couple of those runs to pop. And that was the difference in the game. The inability to get off the field. You had some well-timed blitzes that just did not get home. Just way too many 3rd and 8 pluses, way too many 3rd and 10s, yep. 3rd and 11s. You got a 1st and 20, and they're able to get out of that hole and score on that drive. And I think that ultimately just comes down to it's going to get you sooner or later. Offensively, I think the O-line, look, it's the best defense in football. It's in the conversation. I mean, coming in, it's the least amount of points, the least amount of yards. You're talking about sacks coming from everywhere. And I think, ultimately it caught up to them. They had a great game plan to start. That first drive, popping it in the end zone, shaking off those woes of falling into a deep hole. And unfortunately, a couple of those turnovers turned into 3s instead of 7s. And ultimately, that was the difference, not being able to build up a lead. And, the second half, they just couldn't get anything going. And I know we'll dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, they were on the field for too long, that defense. They were on the field for 37 minutes. I mean, that's too long.
And it was all second half, Chris. It was all the first half was dead even. So the first half was 15-15. So think about that. It was I think it was 11 and a half minutes in the fourth quarter.
3 first downs for the Chargers offense, I think, in the second half. So that was a big reason. And look, you look at the run numbers for the Niners, Money. I mean, they ran the ball 41 times. It's a lot of plays. But the Chargers didn't give up any explosives. Christian McCaffrey, 14 for 38. Elijah Mitchell had a pretty good clip, 4.9, 18 for 89. But when Tito goes down and then Covington goes down and you're playing with 3 healthy defensive linemen and you just see this Niners running game coming at you and they're just chipping away, right? They're just chipping away. And what I saw from the Chargers offense in the first half, I mean, Justin's throwing the ball down the field. DeAndre Carter's making plays. Josh Palmer's making plays. Gerald Everett made a play. Everett goes out. And then that second half, just they couldn't get the running game going at all. And that's something I kind of want to dig in today, Money, is this Chargers running game. And, I saw something on NFL Live this week where they're just talking about this is the year of the running back and the running game. And I think the NFL average is like 4.5 yards a carry. And I know that injuries have a heck of a lot to do with this, especially on the offensive line for the Chargers. But they're going to have to find a way to run the football this Sunday with some sort of combination, whether it's Eckler and Spiller, Eckler and Michelle, whoever it is. I think they have to give the running game a little bit more of a chance, because I think that's probably your best bet to beat the Chiefs is keep Patrick Mahomes off the field for as much as possible. We saw what the Commanders did to Jalen Hurts and company on Monday night. They ran a ton of plays. They were just efficient enough in the running game to where they could get first downs, keep that Philly offense off the field. And I just feel like that's kind of the formula right now, because I don't know if you can expect this Chargers offense to look like what it's looked like in the past going against the Chiefs with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. As we tape this, those guys are back in practice in a limited fashion. We'll know much more as the week ends, but I just look at that Chargers running game, and I feel like it's something's missing there, and they got to figure out what it is and maybe try to stay with it a little bit more on Sunday night.
Yeah, so a lot there to unpack. One, I think the first names that I wouldn't mention are the running backs. It's an O-line issue. I watched every snap against the 49ers. I watched it back, and look, I always say this, I always kind of qualify my comments on these pods, and I just want to make sure I'm not taking shots. This is not meant to be malicious and stuff, but you've just got missed assignments, and that's what it was, and I think part of it though is that you're staring at, literally 9 men in the box stacked. You've got 6 stacked on the line of scrimmage, and you've got 3 guys 3 yards behind them on those first downs, and they're running it every time. And every time you're not getting a hat on a hat. And there were, Foster Sarrell struggled in run block and really struggled and just was confused at times for where he's supposed to be. And you couldn't run to the right because there was always a free man that was there to fill up a hole. And look, again, this is the number 1 rush defense in the league. It's the number 1 defense in the league. So that shouldn't be surprising that they struggled with this offensive line. Zion and Foster on that side really, really struggled. And it was just impossible to get anything going that way. Now you go to the other side, and the tight ends. The tight ends just have to do a better job blocking. I think that's the only way I can put it. They've got assignments, and whether it was Rodgers or McKitty, they're just missed assignments, or they're just not getting there quick enough to put a hat on a hat and try to create a lane. They had one run in the second half where they brought in the extra lineman, so Storm comes in, lines up outside Jamari, and then you've got McKitty or Rodgers. It was one of the two outside of him, and inexplicably, Storm just pops out, and they block the same guy. And here's, I can't remember if it was Fred Warner or if it was Jimmy Ward. But anyway, there's just a guy standing right in front of them that's waiting for Austin to hit that hole and make a tackle on first down. So I think it's important to point out it's really more up front than it is on the line on the running backs. It's got to get blocked better. And it's been a real struggle up front. I think you mentioned, just to kind of build off of that, Gerald Everett's not a blocking tight end. He's a great receiving tight end, and we saw that was the mismatch they were ready to exploit in that game. You could see it. Hufanga, his feet just got stuck, and Everett was really getting after him. And it looked like, okay, they got their Cheeto, and this is where they're going to go. And that was a big part of that first scoring drive. And you saw it again in the set, with McKitty, late in that first half. That's a touchdown. If I think if Gerald's out there, he catches that ball on the right sideline, and that's going to be a 35-yard touchdown. It hit Trey right in the hands and was just dropped to the ground, and ultimately they settled for 3. So that was a big hit because it looked like that was the mismatch for them in that game. The receivers just struggled. They really struggled to get open. I thought Josh had a handful of opportunities, especially on that first drive. He had a really nice catch and a nice route to start the second half when they had those back-to-back plays to Josh and Austin to get that drive started that just stalled at midfield. And then guys just couldn't get open. They could not. When Justin's looking up, there's just nothing. There's no separation for Bandy, for Carter, for Palmer, for McKitty, and it just was a struggle. It was a real struggle. But again, I stress this is probably the best defense in the league, and I think they played like it. And yet, when you talk about the end of that game, and I know the coaches aren't making excuses, and I'm not trying to make an excuse either, but I think what I'm saying is that they had a chance to win that game with a touchdown and an extra point with 55 seconds left. Had Herbert's arm not getting hit, had not been hit, he would have connected with Josh at midfield, and they would have had a drive starter there. What I'm getting at is you're down 15 players that you expect to play on Sunday at the end of that game. 15. Of those 15, 10 are starters. Of those 10 starters, 5 are Pro Bowlers. That's what you're down, and you're playing against a team that a lot of people think is going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, and you hung in there. And I think that speaks to the character of the team, and I think it speaks to the fight and the want and the dedication, of these coaches and these players believing in one another that they could go out when everything was stacked against them and maybe get a win.
Yeah. We're 12, 13 minutes into this podcast, and really we could sum it up with that last sentence. Like, they just don't have the guys. They didn't have the guys to compete with the 49ers in the fourth quarter. They're down so many dudes on offense and defense. And, going into that locker room, Money, they were just flat exhausted.
Spent.
They were spent. They were
totally spent.
And they left it all out there, man. You got to give those guys who played a ton of credit. And again, there's no moral victories, as you said, in the NFL. It's a 17-game season. The Chargers find themselves right now, I think, 8th place in the AFC, outside looking in, but just right in the mix. And shoot, what a changing game on Sunday for this season if they can somehow get a win against Kansas City, who's playing really good football right now. Yeah. They found a running game. They did what they did against Jacksonville. And I just don't know. I don't know what to expect on Sunday because not knowing the status of Mike and Keenan as we tape this really changes the complexion of what they can do offensively.
Yeah, I think before we get to Kansas City, like what I would say is I would not look at this as a one game. They're going to have to look at it as one game because they can't look ahead. They've got to figure out a way to beat the Chiefs. One of the best offenses and one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the league. So they've got to figure that out. We can play this game. I think the 49ers are a great example of what the Chargers need to do here these next 4 weeks. This is a 49er team that lost its starting quarterback, that lost its offensive MVP last year, you could argue, in Elijah Mitchell, first half of week 1, and lost Nick Bosa for a stretch, lost Debo for a stretch, lost Trent Williams for a stretch. Like, Kittle was out for a while. And what did they do? They figured out a way to tread water. They were 1-2, they were 3-4, and now they're 5-4, and now everybody's back. And now everybody's talking about, remember, they were talking Jimmy Garoppolo is a liability. This team will, this team's too one-dimensional. And now it's the proverbial team nobody wants to face in the playoffs because they were able to just maintain enough to win enough games until their guys got back. And I think for the Chargers, that's the key. You've got to win that game in Atlanta. You've got to win the game in Arizona next week. And now guys are going to start coming back. I hope they're back this week. If they're back this week, look, I still think they can. If you go through, we talked about that game against the Chiefs. They should have won that game. I don't mind being the guy with the powder blue colored glasses saying the refs screwed them. The refs screwed them in that game. They got absolutely screwed in that game. The interception that was waved off because of the pass interference called on Bryce Callahan when it absolutely was not Bryce Callahan, led to a Chiefs touchdown because the Chargers didn't get possession there. Asante had that ball. His hand was under it, and they ended up calling that, waving that thing off, that interception. That's 2 turnovers. I think that's they played better than the Chiefs in that game. So, and I bring that up because as I'm kind of going through it now, these games, Brandon Staley calls a good game against the Chiefs. He has figured out a way to play Patrick Mahomes defensively. You look at last year, they lose in OT, they win in Kansas City. And even if you go back to the year before with Herbert, they lose in OT, they win in Kansas City. Like, these teams play each other well. So I'm not going to be surprised, like I was, again, honestly. I was surprised in the effort on Sunday night. I am not going to be surprised if they're in this game. I do think there's mismatches that you can exploit against the Chiefs. That they are not as scary a team without Tyreek Hill. I don't care what anybody says about the numbers and how he's spreading it around, and now they're a more physical team because they're running Pacheco. I don't care. It's not the same. It is not the same. And, I know Travis ended up getting them ultimately in that game because of the way they ultimately had to play it. Ends up – actually, no, he didn't. What am I saying? I thought he did have a big game. He had the one – I thought he had 5 for 51. There you go. The Derwin effect of Travis Kelce. And you just go through that whole game. You've got, Watson 50 yards, Hardman 49 yards, Allaire 44 yards, Scantling 13 yards, Smith-Schuster 10 yards. Like, they were able to contain Pat Mahomes to 2 touchdowns, and he should have had 2 picks. And one of those touchdowns should have come off the board because it came on that drive, on that inexplicable flag thrown by that shameful referee. I can't get over it. It is one of the worst flags I've ever seen. So they can do it. And one of the reasons why I believe they can do it, Chris, is because of what we saw. We were talking about this on the broadcast of the 49er game. We were in meal before we went to before we got on the buses. I think, were you sitting with me for breakfast before we got on the buses?
Yeah.
And remember, we're watching the Buffalo game.
Yeah.
And we're sitting at a table, and right in front of us is the table where Herbert's sitting. And we're watching Josh Allen put on a show. Ultimately the Bills lost that game, but we're watching Allen put on a show. He's trucking linebackers and carrying them 10 yards. He's pushing the ball downfield. And it was so wild. It was funny to see because when Minnesota wins that game, or when Josh Allen throws the interception to end the game, like, everybody in the room, it's natural. You're watching football, you make some sort of noise, or something like that.
Yeah.
Herbert's just doesn't even flinch. I was watching him, and he's just staring at the TV, and he just slowly stands up, and he gets his stuff, and he walks out. And DJ and I said, you know what? I guarantee that had an effect on him. I guarantee Herbert was watching Allen use that size, use that athleticism to carry his team, pushing the ball downfield. And sure enough, we saw an even another level of Herbert from what we saw from Atlanta. He's tucking the ball and running. He's quarterback sneaking for first downs. He's pushing the ball downfield, but specifically with the legs. It's the first time we've seen Justin tuck and take off when he had Green in front of him multiple times. So I'm hoping that sticks. And I think if it does, we know Herbert loves playing the Chiefs. I mean, look at that game in Kansas City, 33 of 48 for 334 and 3 touchdowns. I mean, we know that he loves playing this team. So you get that Justin Herbert, and just like we said against the 49ers, man, anything's possible because that guy is out there.
He's healthier, right?
100%.
He's healthier. He was the second leading rusher in that game last Sunday, and you said it. Primetime Herbert's a real thing too, Money, by the way. Like, he shows up when the lights are brightest and he's on a national stage. He shows up. I go back to the last win the Chargers had against the Chiefs. 4 turnovers. I don't think they need 4 turnovers on Sunday, but getting a couple against Patrick Mahomes will do them well. And I'm looking at this turnover differential from week 2, and I see 1-0. And I feel like the Chargers had like 6 turnovers in that game. They had 0.
Yeah,
they
had 4 opportunities.
Yeah.
They had 4 opportunities. They blew 2 of them, but I think they secured 2 of them. And that's the key. We said it last week going into this game, right? How do you win? When I was talking to you for CBS, turnovers. You have to take advantage of turnovers, and they did. They blocked a punt, got 3. They forced a fumble, got 3. Now you get 7s there and you win the game. That's the difference. But look, Mahomes is going to give you opportunities. We know that because he does every single game. You just have to cash him in. And again, in that game against Kansas City, I believe they cashed 2 of them in. Asante in that game against San Francisco. Look, Asante, is looking at Ayuk on that errant throw by Jimmy, and the ball ends up hitting him right in the chest because he was just looking the wrong direction. If he's looking at Jimmy instead of Ayuk, he's got a pick 6. I mean, that's where that was going. So we said that with Jimmy. He's going to put them up. You've got to take advantage of them, and they did. Again, they got 2 turnovers. Unfortunately, they couldn't, get enough. But they got 6 points instead of 14 out of them. You've got to do the same thing. Exact same thing. And with Derwin out there, I'm 100% confident he can do it.
You talked about how stout that San Francisco defense is, Bunny. And just going back to the running game conversation, you get Pipkins back. You mentioned the assignments missed up front. If they can clean that up, you get Trey back. How important do you think it is to run the football in I guess in an effort to really keep your defense off the field? Because 37 minutes of defense for a D that is down as many guys as it is. Tyler Davison was picked up this week from the Browns practice squad. He'll probably play a decent amount. Joe Gaziano, I imagine, will be brought up. But almost playing keep away from the Chiefs, do you think that that's an element that you have to consider, considering Keenan and Mike's status right now?
So to me, it's not so much playing keep away. It is, but it's not necessarily running the ball. It's just however you have to do it, you got to do it. You've got to score touchdowns on drives. So if that means, look, they scored 24 against the Chiefs, and, Herbert threw it 48 times and they ran it 24. So however you got to do it to keep it away, that's just the key. It's not necessarily the manner in which you do it. You just have to do it. And the health of Keenan and Mike is a big part of that, and Gerald. If Everett, Williams, and Allen are all coming back, or if you can get 2 of those 3, I feel dramatically better, considerably better than I do if they're not coming back. I think Trey is a huge add because, again, look, tip of the cap to Serrell. I thought, considering the circumstances, he did a heck of a job. But again, it's to be expected. There's some issues there of trying to figure out what your assignments are, specifically in the run game. And you're trying to, am I falling back? Am I pushing forward? Am I diving down to block this guy with Zion? Am I supposed to be kicking out to block this guy? Am I looking for someone at the next level? That's a lot. It's a lot to ask a guy that was, essentially signed to be a break glass in case of emergency type player. So I think getting Trey is going to be a big help, certainly, and it sounds like he's going to be back there. But I also think you've got to be as close to full strength as possible just to be able to score touchdowns and not field goals against this team with the defense that you have right now. I know the Titans were able to shut them out. But again, that's in the conversation as the best defense in football with how well they've been playing and they're healthy. So to me, it's kind of goes back to the offense. You've got to be able to put points on the board. And I think ultimately that's the way this season's going to work out, Chris. They're going to get healthy on the offensive side before the defensive side. Yeah. Based on the way Coach was talking yesterday in the presser. I don't know when Joey's coming back. We obviously know what the secondary looks like, what the interior of the defensive line looks like. So I think as Trey gets back, as you've got Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett, we've seen Isaiah take that next step. Josh Kelly should be back by Arizona. You're going to have to start scoring points. This is a team that's going to have to start scoring points to win games, and I'm talking about 28-35 is what we got to start seeing from this offense when they start getting healthy.
So just to give you a snapshot of what the Chiefs did last week, Mahomes 26-35, 4 touchdowns and interception. You talked about how they spread the ball around now. Kelsey 6 for 81, Valdez-Scantling, McKinnon out of the backfield 6 for 56, Schuster 2 for 33. How about this Kadarius Toney, though, this pickup for them? 4 for 57 and a touchdown. He had this incredible grab on the sidelines. And then the running game, Clyde Edwards-Helaire has kind of been phased out. It's Pacheco's show now. 16 for 82, 5.1 a pop. Mahomes with his legs, 40 yards. Very balanced. And I talked to DJ about this. He did a film room, Mahomes versus Herbert, and just how different the offense looks without Tyreek Hill, and you alluded to it. They're spreading the ball around to a bunch of different dudes.
Yeah, look, and they want to be a physical team with Pacheco. That's why he's getting all those carries, and then they're running some play action off of that once he gets established. You're not used to seeing it with the Chiefs, but that's what it's become. And you know what? Their offensive line is probably better suited to run block than pass block. We know that with Orlando Brown. He's not a real good pass blocker. He's a darn good run blocker. And so you're seeing a lot of runs going his way, and that's helping extract value from him. Because that's the way he played in Baltimore. That's why he ended up fetching a first-round pick. All the big grades that they were putting on Orlando Brown. It's like, well, yeah, he doesn't really have to hold his blocks at all to pass. And then I think they learned that the hard way last year. And now they're starting to find a sweet spot for, what's the best way to use Orlando. So I expect a lot of that because, again, the Chargers defense has been suspect against the run. And then you're going to see Mahomes make plays off of that. So I think you'll see a very similar game plan from Kansas City. The big difference is, like I said, offense has to come through. The Jaguars in that game, they missed 2 field goals in the first half. They had a couple 3-and-outs. So, they kind of did themselves in. If it's instead of being 20-7 at the half, if it's 2013 and then you get a field goal on their opening drive of the second half, well, okay, now it's 2016. Now you got a little pressure there, and you can get a little bit more aggressive defensively. So, again, I think the key with the Chiefs is taking advantage of your opportunities, be it on defense and getting those turnovers, be it on offense and making sure. I thought Coach made a really good point. And I thought it was a fair question. I think Popper asked it. I think it's a completely fair question, because of the answer that Fred Warner gave and the fact that it gets some traction on social media of him saying, yeah, we just called the same play over and over and over again in the second half. And I thought Coach, made a great point. He's like, yeah, they did because what they were doing in the first half, we were getting them. And when they ended up changing, the guys just didn't get wins, and ultimately, and I appreciate Coach saying, and we couldn't get anything on first down. And that goes back to kind of what I was talking about with the runs. I think there were 6 first down run calls in the second half, if I remember right, and not a one of them did anything. So it's like you can't, okay, 1, okay, 2, all right, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's not do that. Let's, and one of those was that quick pitch to DeAndre Carter, which is, why are you running that at Nick Bosa? And I think everybody pointed that out. You're running it at Nick Bosa and Foster Sarell. What are we doing here? Or actually, no, it was Nick Bosa. Yeah, it was Nick Bosa and Foster Sarell. Why are you doing that? So I think I do think there is, I think some of the incoming is warranted for that. But at the same time, in watching it back, there weren't plays to be made. And I don't think they're going to face that gnarly of a defense this time around. Look, that Chiefs front is good. We know Chris Jones is the best pass rushing interior defensive lineman this year. He's actually been better than Aaron Donald this year. Frank Clark is good. I like Karlaftis. We've talked about that before. So they're good. It's a good front. It's going to be tough to run against, but again, with Herbert, I think you take advantage of some of those openings and you use his legs as your weapon, and I think that's how you get to be a little bit more effective. And I would love to see them change it up. I'm actually just going to, while we're talking, pop into there because I want to make sure I'm right on that when I look at the play-by-play sheet with the Chargers. So let's see, 5 plays. Yeah. Austin Eckler up the middle for 2 yards on a 1st and 25. Austin Eckler left for 2 yards. Justin Herbert pass short middle that's the one I was talking about to Carter. So it's really a sweep, -6 yards. This one, next drive is.
That's right. DeAndre had.
That was when they were at the 1. So it was 4 consecutive first down runs that went nowhere. And I think if you go back to the first half, even that's a pass to Eckler that does well. Short right, pass, right end for -1 yards on first down. And this is a Herbert scrambles for 2 yards. So, they were much better in the first half. Second half, it was just run, and it was fail 4 times in a row.
Yeah. The momentum that they would get off a win against the Chiefs is one thing. They get to 6-4, and you got so much in front of you. But, we can look ahead, like you said. You're looking for, the path to 10 wins. And it's there. Whether or not you get the one against the Chiefs on Sunday, Cardinals, Raiders, and then I see Dolphins, Titans at home. Those are going to be probably your 2 toughest games. Then you have the Colts, Monday Night Football, the Rams, who are struggling at 3-6 right now, and the Broncos to close the season. You keep getting guys back, Money. The path to 10 wins is there, even if you drop this one this Sunday.
They got to go 5-3.
Yeah, but if you get this one on Sunday, man, I tell you, this team could be like that point where, like you said, offensively, you start scoring points. If Keenan or Mike comes back, at least you have something in the passing game that you can rely upon. Tight end is what scares me a little bit, especially with Gerald being down. Parham's already down. Relying on McKitty and Rodgers to get offensive production is not something I would count on this Sunday against the Chiefs.
There's nothing there. That's why I said you got to get 2 of those 3 back.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping look, I'd love to get 3 of 3 back, but I think you really got to get 2 of 3 back. If it's Keenan and Everett, if it's Keenan and Mike, if it's Mike and Everett, I think I'm hoping you can get 2 of those 3 guys back. Because you need it. You absolutely need it. It is too hard for those other guys to win. There's a reason why you carry them on their practice squad, and you use them in a pinch, and you can drop a great set of plays for them. In one game, all right, we're going to get you 4 targets. Let's hope you catch 3 of them. Michael Bandy, Jason Moore, and that's what it should be. But if you can get Keenan, Mike, and Josh Palmer out there, and Gerald Everett and Austin Eckler, now we're cooking. Yeah. Now we're cooking with gas, and that's what I'm talking about. So the one issue with the way we're playing the schedule and the path to 5 wins, the opponents that you feel best about are all on the road. That's the one issue.
I know.
It's Colts road. It's Raiders road. It's Cardinals road. It's Broncos road. It's that's the issue. And look, there are no easy opponents. We know that. The Jets are 6-3. There are no easy opponents in the NFL.
Dude, the Dolphins have put themselves in a nice situation in the AFC East right now. 7-3 with the win against the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, look, the AFC has got 4 teams in the playoffs. They've got 4 teams in the playoffs right now. The Bills, the Patriots, the Dolphins, the Jets. They're all in the playoffs right now. 4 teams. And it was supposed to be one of the weakest divisions. And the AFC West was supposed to be the best division, and they've got 1, the Chiefs. And the Raiders are the 2nd worst team in football behind the Texans. Yeah. So
the Broncos aren't too far behind. No.
I mean, that's how weird this game is and how quickly it can change. So I'm with you. Look, it's why we said it, and I keep repeating it. The win in Atlanta was huge. It was huge to get that one. So if you don't dip under 500. If you lose to currently, 2 of the favorites to make the Super Bowl right now, the 49ers and the Chiefs, you win against the Chiefs, and you talk about getting some equity, and a little bit of of leeway there. It's a big game. Don't get me wrong. It is a huge game because you can split, and now you got a shot at the division. You split with them. You're only a game behind, and at least you have the split. You improve to 3-1 in the division, and next thing you know, you can go 4-1, 5-1 now if you beat the Raiders and the Broncos, and now that's your tiebreaker. That you hope, can. And I'm going to go look at the standings. I know I'm doing a lot of flipping around right now. I'd be better prepped for the people listening right now. My great apologies, but I look at the Chiefs. So they are 2-0 in division. You hand them their first one, their first loss there. They're 4-2 in conference right now. The Chargers are 4-2 in conference, 2-1 in the division. They would improve to 3-1 in the division. The Chiefs would be 2-1. They would improve to 5-2 in the conference. The Chiefs would be 4-3. Now you've got the tiebreaker. Yeah. You've got the tiebreaker. You're a game behind. Start getting guys back, win your games, and see if you can win this division and get a little bit of traction here.
And independent of the division, if you're just looking at wild card tiebreakers too, look at Cincinnati. They're 0-3 in the division. They're 2-3 in conference.
Right.
And if you look at their schedule, it is not easy. And they're still down Jamar Chase. The Patriots are the one team I'd be maybe a little bit more concerned about. They're 4-2 in conference. They're coached by Bill Belichick. They're 5-4 right now. They have a game against the Jets this Sunday, which I think is huge in just the AFC playoff picture in general because the Jets, can the Jets sustain this?
That's the one for me, Chris. That's the ones that I think is going to fall out just because of all the injuries they've had to deal with. And you're talking about going to New England this week, to Minnesota, traveling to Buffalo, traveling to Seattle, traveling to Miami. they've got a pretty rough stretch ahead of them. But I think they're a good team. I think they're well coached. I love their defense. Their secondary, you could argue it's the best pair of corners in the league right now. Quinnen Williams is an absolute nightmare to deal with on the interior. So I'm not saying that they're going to get blown out or they're a pushover, but they've got a pretty rough schedule because of the road games they have. Dolphins, Seahawks, Bills, Vikings, Patriots, all on the road. And you could maybe see that slide back a little bit here.
You know what's interesting too? Listen, the Colts are 4-5-1, and Jonathan Taylor, I think the healthier he gets and maybe the better the offensive line gets, maybe the better the Colts are, but their schedule's pretty brutal. They got the Eagles, they got the Cowboys, the Vikings, the 7-2 Giants.
And look how different the Steelers look with TJ Watt back. They're a different team. Like, that's a thing. You know, it's like anybody that was able to play the Steelers before Watt was back, you got a bonus. Now, I know Minka's down, but like Watt changes everything. Changes everything for that team. So, you know, the Colts, congratulations, you beat the Raiders. You got to shut up all the sanctimonious people that were, you know, crying about Jeff Saturday getting that job. But now it gets, now like you said, okay, now what happens? Eagles, Steelers with Watt, Cowboys, Vikings, Chargers. There you go. Now let's see what you got.
Exactly.
And then at Giants, you know, so again, it's there. It is there for the Chargers, which is why I think it's so smart. And look, every coach does it, but I do think, you know, they pound that message. I don't care about anything else but what's in this room. You know, take care of what we got, and you'll get in the tournament. And if you get in the tournament, and now you're fine, you know, now we're hearing if they make the playoffs, Slater could be available. Joey's coming back. I think Joey's probably coming back that Miami game. That's the one I'm figuring. I don't think it's, you know, some people were talking about Arizona. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think if you look at that Miami game, you know, December 11th, it's about a month from now, I think that looks about right. If you can get him back there, you want to talk about changing your defense. You know, we know what that looked like, you know, through a game and a half with Joey and Khalil out there against Kansas City and against Vegas. So now you're loaded for Miami, Tennessee, Indy, the Rams, and the Broncos. If that's the spot where Joey comes back. And by then, the offense should be completely healthy. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, if you're 6-5, 7-5 when you're coming out of the Raider game, and now you've got 5 games left and you're healthy, you know, just get in. There's no juggernaut team this year. There isn't. There is no team that you should be afraid of, you know, this season. So all you got to do is get in.
Because at this point, Money, like, who's the number 1 seed in the AFC?
It's Kansas City right now.
It's Kansas City.
Yeah.
But if Kansas City takes a little bit of a tumble, it could be Baltimore. It could be Miami. So you're looking at you know, let's say if you're like the 6 or 7 seed in the AFC, you could play anybody. You could play Miami. You could play Baltimore. You could play Tennessee. If Kansas City's the number 1 overall seed, I think the 3 teams outside of Kansas City that Chargers fans should have their eyes on right now is Cincinnati, New England, and the Jets. Those are basically, I think, the 3 teams that you're competing for as far as the wild card's concerned. And then, heck, like you said, if they beat the Chiefs, then we're talking, all right, where are we in the division right now?
Right. Now you want to try to make a run at the division. Now you're talking about making a run at the division. And not having to be a wild card team that has to win 3 road games in order to get in to the Super Bowl. So, you know, at the same time, that wouldn't worry me. Like, there are issues with all of these teams, every single team. Kansas City is not as explosive as they were. Patrick Mahomes gives the ball away. They still have defensive issues. Miami's defense is a mess. Yes, their offense is a nightmare to contend with, no doubt about it. But I think the way that Brandon Staley is coached, and you talk about just keeping everything in front of you, playing that too high, you know, can you take it away? Can you force them to try to be, you know, more? Can you force them out of their comfort zone because the defense has been terrible? Tennessee, the offense, it's one-dimensional right now. They have no pass catchers whatsoever. You know, now Ryan Tannehill's coming back. That'll change a little bit. I expect to see that get a little bit better. We know what happens to Baltimore if they fall behind in the playoffs. You know, they struggle to pass the ball. You know, in Buffalo, we've just seen mistakes, critical mistakes from Josh Allen, the inability to have an offense that isn't Josh Allen-centric. Every one of those teams are gettable. Last year, I felt like the Chiefs. It's funny. Like last year, I felt like the Chiefs and the Bills were so far ahead of everybody else, and the Bengals end up going to the Super Bowl, which is funny. But I think it's just weird how that worked out. It almost felt like a quirk in the Matrix, But this year, I do not feel that way about the Bills and the Chiefs like I did last year.
Yeah. Hey, let's take a quick break. We'll answer a few fan questions and get out of here. All right, guys, I want to introduce you to Ultimate Chargers. It's the free-to-play next-level fantasy football game. Open packs, collect players, pick your lineup, and crush the competition. Ultimate Chargers. Play now inside the LA Chargers app. Also want to tell you about Chargers Picks Now. The official LA Chargers Pick'em contest is where you predict the game outcomes for a chance to win a Chargers jersey. Check out the free-to-play Chargers Picks tab in the LA Chargers app to play. All right, Money, I asked for some questions from Chargers fans. Let's kick it off with our boys from the Charger Chat podcast. Do you think this team has been galvanized having to fight through these injuries? And which one player do you think will make the biggest difference to our team when they return from injury? You answer that first.
You sure? Yeah. I mean, last one first. Bosa. I think there's no question. You know, Joey changes the defense. We have not seen a pass rush opposite Khalil Mack. So teams are able to chip and shade and run away, his direction with extra protection, and they're able to run away from him, and there's nothing there waiting for him. So Joey's going to change everything. Credit Kyle Van Noy for giving it a go, but I think it's been a real struggle for him playing edge. So getting Bosa back will change everything. Everything. And I think, and just
the run
think
defense.
Think about what Coach did last week, and I loved seeing JT Woods out there because it just cut Derwin loose. Derwin played edge last week. Derwin played a lot of that money linebacker spot. Yeah. Like you look at his snap distribution, he played in the slot, he played outside corner, he played high safety, he played linebacker, he played edge. You get Joey back, and now you're getting a little more comfortable. Maybe JT's getting some more reps, and you're like, this is what I envisioned. JT and Nas high, Joey and Khalil coming off the edges, Drew quarterback in that defense from the middle linebacker spot, and Derwin wrecking shop from all over the place. So that's the key. The sooner they get Joey back, the sooner this thing changes dramatically. As far as galvanized, I don't necessarily buy into that. I've just been around too many football players to see what a nightmare this life is playing professional football. You get the crap kicked out of you every single day. It's just, I've heard, I don't remember who I heard it say it first. It's been around forever though, but it's like getting into multiple car crashes every single Sunday. It takes such a physical toll that you're already galvanized. It's why if you've ever been around football players, and this is at every level. It's high school, it's college, it's, but the higher you get, obviously, the more physically punishing it is. Like if you see guys, oh, you know what? We played against each other back in '94. There's this connection because you've lived that. You've lived that experience. So you don't need any extra adversity to galvanize a football team. They're already galvanized because of the sacrifices they're willing to make.
Yeah, agreed on that. And I 1,000% agree with you on Bosa. I'd add Keenan Allen to that mix because we have not seen him all year. And you saw how the offense moved with him last year when he was 100%. And it may take Keenan, if he comes back this week, it may take him a couple of weeks to get to 100%. But when he is, that's the chain mover for this
100%.
Offense. And I think you'll just see the complexion of the offense change when Keenan gets back into it. So both good questions here. Hey, Justin has thrown 300-plus yards twice this season. Do you attribute that to injuries, defenses faced, or pushing more of a run game? That's from Bolt Up 1584. I mean, really, I think it's just injuries. It's kind of what it is, right? If you don't have your horses on the outside.
Both his own, it's injuries at every level. It's wide receivers that aren't creating separation and getting open. It's Justin's ribs, where clearly we've seen a different Justin Herbert these last 2 weeks than we saw in the immediate aftermath of that injury, the second half of week 2. And it's the offensive line. It's just protection up front. And Justin's done a great look. The sack numbers aren't there. The Chargers are leading the league in least sacks allowed, but they're also last in the league in most pressures. So that goes to tell you he's got to get rid of the ball quick because he's under pressure, or he's going to take sacks. He's not taking sacks because he's getting rid of the ball. And now we're starting to see a little bit more holding the ball, willing to push it, willing to take the punishment because he feels better. So I think I thought we had a shot at that 300-yard game last week, and then it fell apart. It just fell apart, and the adjustments were made, and guys just couldn't get open.
From Dodgebolt King, a lot of talk about putting grass in all NFL stadiums. Is SoFi capable of having grass based on the roof and the way it's built? You know what? I remember in August, the MLS put in grass for like a friendly, like a Galaxy friendly. But there's been a ton of talk about grass in NFL stadiums and the injuries. And I think you're starting to see players a little bit more vocal about this topic, Money.
Now, look, I think every stadium should have grass. I've just talked to way too many people and heard what they've said, players, and heard what they've said about turf and what it does to them, even if it's not an injury, just the way they feel after a game on turf versus a game on grass. The thing with SoFi is that it is a $6 billion investment. And in order for Stan Kroenke to get his money back, he's got to have a lot of events there. He's got to have a lot of concerts. He's got to have Supercross. He's got to have all that stuff. That's hard with grass. Kills the grass. When you put the floor down and you put the stage down, well, now your grass is dead, and now you got to bring in new sod, and now that's a fortune. So that's why SoFi has turf, because they want to have 200 events a year or 150 events a year instead of just the 20 football games between the two teams. So ultimately that's what we're talking about. Why SoFi doesn't have grass. So until you can get operations and Kroenke and the people that own the building to sign off on that, which I think is the longest of long shots, you're going to continue to see turf in that building.
This is from Mason Eisenzimmer. Do you think the Mahomes-Herbert yearly matchup not talked about enough? I think with Allen and Mahomes, those guys played in the playoffs, and when you play each other in the playoffs, I think the regular season matchups get more amplified. So I think until maybe these guys meet in the playoffs and it's more of a national story and the Chargers get on that level of the Chiefs more consistently, it's probably what it's going to be.
Look, this will be the sixth time they have played each other, and it will be the fourth time it's in primetime. So I think that should tell you all.
Yeah.
Yes, it's getting the attention. They've played 3 Thursday nights and a Sunday night. So Amazon launched their relationship with the NFL with Herbert and Mahomes. So I get what he's saying. Yes, it's getting the attention. The people that know and the people that are financially invested in this, they're like, yeah, we like this one. This is a good one for us. Let's keep getting more of this. And the more you have, and like you said, Chris, when Herbert makes the playoffs and makes a run in the playoffs and ultimately wins a Super Bowl, yes, then that will take it to the next level.
Andrew, a couple more here. If Gerald ever can't play on Sunday, which practice squad player could be called up and replicate his efficiency the most? I feel like McKitty and Rodgers don't have enough juice in the passing game. I don't know if there is a guy on the practice squad, right? Camp Moore is the only other tight end, and then
Hunter Camp Moyer. They let go of Stone Smart. He
mentioned a couple of these receivers, Hightower and Doss. Hightower's got speed, but I don't know if he replicates what Gerald ever does.
I like Keelan Doss a lot. I was surprised that he wasn't kind of plugged in there. Just kind of one of the more curious things that I couldn't quite get my head around. I didn't know why Larry was active against the 49ers. I was trying to figure that out. I'm like, why? Is somebody hurt?
I initially
Austin banged up?
I initially thought it was going to be to spell DeAndre Carter because his offensive workload was going to be a lot, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, that was interesting. Like I truly was surprised that Gaziano wasn't active. I was like, why would Joe not be active for this game, considering Austin's down and Jerry was waived? Like that's what surprised me. So no, those are their options, and I think that's something that will be explored this offseason. To me, that will be priority number one, and I would have loved to have seen it addressed at the trade deadline. The Hawkinson deal that the Vikings got from Detroit, I so desperately wish that would have been the Chargers that acquired him instead of the Vikings, because he would have been exactly what this team needed.
All right, it's a great segue into our final question from Kieran. I know the draft isn't coming up anytime soon, but what will be more important to the Chargers, a do-it-all tight end or an explosive wide receiver? Both.
Well, I think that, look, the do-it-all tight ends are hard to find. I think if you can find a really good pass-catching tight end, get him. And I mean really good. I'm not talking about Jared Cook 1 year, Gerald Everett the next. I'm talking about, look, Mike Gesicki is not going back to Miami. They franchise tagged him. They were talking about trading him at the deadline maybe. That's a fit to me free agent-wise. Go get that big target, athletic target that Herbert can really take advantage of in the middle of the field. If it were up to me in the draft, it's O-line, D-line, O-line, D-line, O-line, D-line, secondary, O-line, D-line, secondary, O-line, D-line, secondary. We've seen it. You need that. You've got to have players at those positions. You just got to have waves of them.
Hey, we haven't mentioned his name in a while. Jalen Guyton has been a big blow. Not having him stretching the field.
100%. You need speed. You've got to get speed. That's certainly something to think about. But look, I think we're now seeing with the Rams who spend and draft skill position players. The Allen Robinson contract might have been the worst one handed out this offseason. They need O-linemen, and they're dropping $50 million on Allen Robinson. They need O-linemen, and they're drafting Tutu Atwell in the second round. No, that's not the path. The path is the lines. Make sure your lines are right. I know people don't know defensive linemen or offensive linemen like they know, Jordan Addison and these other players in college football. Draft O-linemen and D-linemen. That's what you need to do.
Well said. Let's get out of here with your key to victory. For me, it's simple. I'm going to kind of home in on third down defense for the Chargers. The Chiefs, second best in the league on third down. You got to get Mahomes off the field so you can get a Herbert on it. And if they can limit what the Chiefs do on third down, you put yourself in a nice position.
Yeah, look, it's boring. Just get them turnovers, man. He's going to give them to you. He's going to give them to you, and you got to cash them in. Asante, Mikey Davis, Derwin, Khalil. I think that's I like what Eric Smith, our friend at Chargers.com, posted, that Khalil's had at least a half sack, and I think 6 straight or 7 straight against the Chiefs. So Khalil, get another one. Get another one, make it a strip sack, scoop that thing up, and cash in turnovers. That, to me, is priority 1. Priority 2, you already said it. Get off the field on third down. Do not give these guys second chances. Mahomes is so good at extending plays and overcoming 3rd and 12s and 3rd and 15s. He's the best in the league at it. You can't allow him to do it to you. That was the death knell from the 49ers. They had so many 3rd and longs, and the Chargers just could not get off the field. So that's going to be the key.
Back-to-back Sunday night football games, Money. You got to love calling games on Sunday night.
It's great. It's great. I love it. I love the prime time. Yeah, I'm all about it. I dig it. It's nice knowing that you're doing the one game that every single person in America is watching, that watches football. It's not split. They're watching your game, and you get to call it. It was fun calling it last week, and I look forward to it again.
It's been a minute since we've been at SoFi Stadium, so be good to get home for a Sunday night football game, and we look forward to seeing you guys there. Money, always appreciate it, brother. I will see you on Sunday. I'll see you guys on Sunday. For Money, I'm Chris. This has been Chargers Weekly.